Hi, my name is Tony, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through my process of unboxing, swatching or cataloging my new stash, and I'll then create a clean and simple card using some of the items from my new stash by Altenew. So let's dive in. So the first item here is the wide dotted washi tape, and you'll see me use this on a card, the card that I'll be making. The next items are the sets of ink cubes and very pretty colors, and you'll see me swatching them in a bit as well. So they're basically sets of 4 colors in the same color family: the greens, the blues there, and another set of different shades of brown. So I love the gradation of the ink colors. The next one is this complete bundle bold bouquet. And then I also purchased this beautiful layering stamp and die set, the Hawaiian Coral. And it has a flower die and a die for the leaf. Both the flower and the leaf stamp has 4 layers plus an outline layer. So that is really great. The next one is a masking paper that I purchased because this is a low tack adhesive paper that I can use to mask my stamps. Now, here is what I do to create my swatches. So the first one is the washi that I'm going to show you. Unfortunately, this is my bullet journal that I was using as a swatching platform, but I've run out of space in that. But I wanted to show you how I swatch my washi. So I have tons and tons of rolls of washi, and this is how I would swatch them, you see. But I actually acquired quite a few more rolls of washi recently, and I have to swatch them. So that's my bullet journal. Unfortunately, I can't really share it with you since it has a lot of confidential information. The next one is where I swatch my paints, my inks, and the one tab that I forgot to show you is the section for my alcohol markers as well. So that's the section for the stamping inks. I have various brands, Gina K, and I have oxides and things like that, Catherine Pooler, but those are some of the Altenew stamps, inks rather, and I planned that really badly, so I will have to continue with the Altenew inks after my Catherine Pooler. I'm guessing my ink stash will also grow, but we'll see. And I do a little thing of creating a hinge for the acetate for the stamp set. And if you're interested in seeing how I do this entire process of swatching and cataloging my stamps, I will link to that video in the description, and you can go and check it out. So here I'm just using the Botanical Wreath Builder set from Altenew. I just need a solid stamp so I can test the colors, and I am conditioning the stamp by just rubbing my finger on the stamp so I can remove some of the residue from the manufacturing process so the impression is better. But I do find a bit of trouble getting clean impressions with the stamps. Unless I've used the stamp quite a few times, the impressions aren't very clean because I do get a lot of pooling, or I see the ink beading up on the stamp. So that is a bit of a problem. I'm not sure what exactly I can do. Sometimes I just use rubbing alcohol to wipe the stamps before I use them. But over here I'm just using regular water and a stamp chamois to clean the stamp. So I'll go ahead and swatch all of these different colors from each set, and and I'll just let you watch me complete that process. And once I'm done swatching the colors, I usually write down the names of the inks naturally, because that helps me identify which color is what. So here is the final swatch that I created for these 12 inks, and such pretty colors. So let's make a card now. We've got the unboxing out of the way, so these are the things I'll be using. I am using the Hawaiian Coral set, and you can see that I've created a little color palette there. I am using a couple of distress oxides, Lost Shadow and Weathered Wood, because I don't have enough gray inks from Altenew, so I'll be using those. I could have very well eliminated those, or one of them, because I will be using heat embossing over the gray inks at the end, as you will see. And I'm using the two Mountain Mist and Snowdrops from, Dewdrops from the Altenew, one of the Altenew sets that I had from before. And I'm going to be using that washi tape like I already mentioned earlier, and I cut out the black card mat along with the card base, and just to make it quicker for you so you don't have to keep watching. And I'm going to show you how I actually put down the washi tape, and I brought in my magnetic glass mat. I usually don't use it when I'm filming because it casts a reflection, but I'm going to use it because I like to use my magnets to hold down the paper while I do any kind of sticking and stenciling and things like that. So I'm just going to put the washi tape down and keep pressing it down and opening it bit by bit on the paper. And I brought in that Simon Hurley scraping tool, but I realized that it had a pretty sharp edge and I didn't want the washi to tear because it's delicate enough. So I just brought in my credit card, and naturally I just used a lot of washi on my credit card to cover it up because I didn't want to disclose my, the information on there. So now the washi is down, and I'm just going to trim the edges, and also on the other side. And this is going to be part of my card background. So this is how it's going to look. But I already had a small piece from before because I was playing around with the washi tape. So I'm going to use that. And over here you see that I'm trying to get the right measurement for that panel, that washi tape panel. And I'm going to take care of that in a bit. But first I need to get the stamping done. And I'm using my MISTI here to hold the paper down because I have all these different layers. I won't be using all of the layers today. I'm going to be using that solid layer and the outline one, centers, and one of the detailed layers. And also the leaves have the same format, right? The outline and 3 different layers, a base layer as well as the detailed layers. So this is what I'm going to do. Now let's get started with the flower. I will start with the outline layer, and I'm going to use the Lost Shadow because it's a very light gray, and I want to use that so that I can see where I'm placing my layering stamps, like the other layers, right? Because unless I have a reference point, it's difficult to place the other layers. So I'm just inking it up twice, and just to make sure that I can see that particular outline so I can place my layering stamps correctly. So I'm going to just clean up that stamp and I'm going to put it away, and I'll use the detail layer because if I lay down the base layer first, the ink is going to lighten up the outline even further. It's going to fade out, so I won't be able to see where I'm putting down the detail layer. I've tried it a few times off camera, and I've found that putting down the detail layer first and then putting down the base layer is best. And I'll be using the Mountain Mist, which is the slightly darker version of the color palette. So I am going to line up the notches that you can see. There are those notches there, plus there is the divot over there that I am going to use to help me position my stamp correctly over the outline so I can stamp it properly. And I'm just going to use the Mountain Mist, as I said, and I'm going to stamp it down a couple of times because it's a fairly light ink, and it wouldn't show the contrast as much. But in hindsight, I wish I'd done it 3 times because the base layer kind of faded out the detail a little bit once I'd added 2 layers of the base color as well. So this is the base layer, and again I'm going to use the divot to position my stamp on the image. I know the stamp is a little bit cloudy from using it, but I'll be using the center of the flower as well because there are etchings on the stamp, and I'll be using that to make sure that I have accurate positioning. And I'm going in now with the dewdrops, which is a very, very pretty ink, but it's quite light. And because the paper keeps shifting, I want to make sure that I have butted it into the corners very well each time it shifts, because the stamp impression will kind of create a halo if it's not positioned correctly. So that's the 3rd layer of ink that I've added. And this is where I wish I hadn't, because you'll see in the final card that you can barely tell the contrast. Of course, the photos don't do it justice. You do see the contrast, the details a little bit. But anyway, so here I am doing the leaves right now, and I'm going to do 3 at a time because ultimately I will have the base layer on all of them, but the details and the outline on 2 of them, because I'm going to have 5 leaves because it's nice to have odd numbers. And since I'm using only 1 flower, I thought I would add a little more foliage. So you'll just watch me add the base layer and the detail and the outline all together. It's just time saving, that's all. I could do it 1 at a time, but it would mean I'd have to keep, removing the stamps and adding the thing one by one, adding the color one by one. So I'm just doing it all together, and I'll let you watch how I complete this process. And I'm adding 2 layers of ink here as well, although the weathered wood, I'm using weathered wood on the details, and I should mention that, and just the base layer is the lost shadow. The other 2 layers, the outline and the other one, the detailed one, is weathered wood, because I need to be able to see the detail a little bit better when I'm applying heat embossing, and that's exactly what I'm going to do to add shine to the foliage as well as the flower. So I need to be able to see the details properly, and that's the reason I'm just adding that ink. And again, I could have done away with it. I could have just stamped down the base layer and then added the heat embossing after with the details stamps. But I don't know, I just chose to do it this way, although you could eliminate that step and just add the heat embossing if you're doing it. Because initially I thought that, if the leaves look pretty enough, I would not add the heat embossing to the leaves, but I realized that adding the shine to the flower, the leaves were missing something. They needed a little bit of pizzazz as well, so I went ahead and heat embossed the leaves as well. So that was basically why I kind of started it that way. So 1 final leaf there, and adding the missing details to the other leaf. I will be done very soon. And you keep seeing me reposition the paper just to make sure that the outline and the base layers kind of don't go awry, because I want them to align and match up, right? I don't want the haloing effect, as it's called, when your base layer kind of doesn't sit together with the outline. And now I'm going to add the outline to the flower because I just let the ink dry a little bit before applying the outline layer. And I'll be using the Altenew Jet Black, but I want to make sure the positioning is absolutely accurate because otherwise, of course, the entire thing is going to be ruined and I'll have to redo it. So I'm using the jet black ink and I'm inking up the stamp really well because I'm going to apply only one layer of the black ink. I want it to be a very thin, beautiful outline, and I want it to be really crisp, and there you go. Really crisp, beautiful outline, and it matched quite accurately. And the final thing I'm going to do is add the center detail. So I'm using caramel toffee from another set of Altenew inks, and I am going to add the detail with the caramel toffee. And again, I'm going to use just one layer of ink because I don't want it to be too dark. The contrast is really pretty here, and I really love it. So you can see that it's all done, and we are ready to proceed with the next step. So that's the outline, which is really crisp. You do see the details in the petals a little bit now, but it's going to smooth out a little bit more once once it's dried completely. So I added some anti-static powder, and I'm going to use an embossing pen as well as some embossing ink with the stamps. So the pen obviously is going to allow me to be more accurate with my embossing lines, if you will, the lines on the petals. So, but I'm going to first do the outlines because the embossing ink, I'm using Sizzix embossing ink here, and Gina K Fine Detail Silver embossing powder. I'm going to do the leaves first, stamp the leaves first, because the embossing ink is going to, it's not going to dry very quickly. But no, I just realized that I hadn't put down the magnet, so I wanted to make sure that my stamp was placed correctly again. So yeah, so as I was saying, I'll apply the ink to the leaves first because that is a lot more ink there, and it won't dry that easily, because I'm going to apply the embossing ink to all of the leaves first and then the flower, and then I'm going to heat emboss. So now off camera, I kind of did all the leaves, and now I'm adding those little flicks to the flower petals because that's where the silver embossing powder is going to go and create the details on the flower petal while it creates a bit of shine. So that's what I'm doing right now, just adding flicks here and there on the petals. So that's done. I'm going to use a scrap piece of paper to pour the embossing powder. And even though I used the anti-static powder, but because I handled the paper quite a bit, you'll see me using a brush to remove, all the stray bits of powder here and there on the paper. But it's good. I got all the details on the flower petal, and there was one little bit missing, which I thought I should add a little bit more, and just one more flick, and it's all done. So I'm trying to remove all the excess embossing powder as much as I can, but I will have to come in with a brush right now, and you'll see me completing that, removing the excess. Yeah, this part took a little time because there was quite a bit, although I'll be cutting the leaves out, but I didn't want the lines to be too chunky because there was excess powder where it shouldn't be. So I'll just funnel that powder back into the jar, and I'm going to go off camera and heat set that. I still find some extra powder in there that I wanted to get rid of, because again, I didn't want the leaves to become blobs. So yeah, so now it's all heat set. I went and did it off camera, and look at the shine there. I am now going to use the dies, the coordinating dies for the flower as well as the leaf, and complete my die cutting process. Again, my die cutting machine is off camera, so I'm going to go and complete my die cutting. And if you are curious, I use a Gemini Junior, and I don't have the magnetic plate anymore because it was warped and I had to throw it away. And now I just use a sheet of paper as a shim. And here you see me cutting out the leaves one by one because there's only one leaf die. And fortunately, I just had one flower to cut out. Look at how beautiful it is. It's all shiny and bright. And now it's time to assemble the card. I rolled up a bit of washi tape and stuck it inside so I can stick the card base down. And I brought back my glass mat, my magnetic glass mat again, because I find it really convenient to use my magnets when I am doing the assembly, because I'll be sticking things down. I want the magnets to hold everything down in place. And I first tried the layout that I had envisioned, and it actually is looking pretty nice. I have the foliage from every side, right? And I am going to use that little washi panel, but I'm going to cut it down. So this is how everything is going to look once I'm done. I, of course, still need the sentiment, which I'm going to work on, but I wanted to create the layout first so I know how to use my sentiment and how to place it. So here I have some press and seal paper. This is a trick I learned from Jennifer McGuire. It's an amazing trick to use some press and seal paper and just lift it up. There you go. And your layout is intact. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut down that washi panel. Remember, it was a little bit longer than the card mat, but here I am going to make a little boo-boo, which I do correct, and that's why I left it in the video so I can show you. So I wanted to be lazy. You know, I took the measurement, but I didn't measure it. And there I was speechless. I didn't know what to do because it didn't cut through both layers properly, but I decided I'm going to fix it anyway. So I lined up the two panels again, and this time I held it down nicely, nice and firm, and then cut it. So that is done, thank God. And now I'm just going to cut the panel. I think it's an 1.5 inches, and yeah, I just kind of tried to check the layout again to make sure that it looks good, and it does. So now I'm going to first adhere all the panels before I adhere the flower arrangement. So yeah, it looks good. I think this is exactly what I was going after, and yeah, I wanted to bring in the card, the note card, and make sure I have all of that, and all the overhanging leaves I'm going to remove. I'm going to cut away. So I am going to use some double-sided tape, and this is how I do it. So convenient. I just use a magnet to hold the paper down, the mat down, and I just leave the roll on the side. And here I'm making sure I'm using the right side of the mat, of course, but that mat is just simple black. It's 110-pound cardstock. So yeah, I'm just using some double-sided tape. It's so affordable from AliExpress, and I'm using the double-sided tape to put down on the edges, and you'll see me using one strip in the middle as well. One of the good reasons for using double-sided tape is that it allows me a bit of room when I'm actually trying to position the mat on the note card. And here you'll see I'm going to remove only bits of that tape, because if I remove the entire tape, it gets stuck to the card base, to the note card, and if it's askew, if it's not positioned properly, I'm going to have a heart attack trying to remove the mat and reposition it. So I just remove bits of it, and you'll see it kind of acts like a spring and doesn't get stuck down on the paper. And yeah, I'm going to just use the magnets there, hold the card base down, and yeah, I'm just going to wipe it off with Swiffer. It's anti-static. So and now you see it's like a spring. You see it's moving around so easily. But if I'd removed all the backing paper, it would have been stuck already by now. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm sticking down the middle first, the middle strip, and I'm going to remove that remainder of the backing. And then I'm going to remove the other backing from the other strips. And there you go. It's all properly centered. I didn't have to remove the mat and reposition again. And I'm just using my makeup brush to kind of, it's a fluffy, nice fluffy brush for dusting. And for this I'm going to use liquid glue. I'm using Barely Art. I love that glue, and I am going to just adhere it straight down on the card panel. And I always use my tweezers because it lets me see where exactly I'm positioning. And I'm using these two magnets as paperweights, and I'll set that aside for a couple of minutes to dry because the liquid glue is still wet. And I am going to use the Sweet Buttercups set and use the sentiment Birthday Wishes. You can see that that stamp set is really well loved. So I'm going to just use that sentiment, and I'm going to use my Misty again to position my stamp, because I am going to heat emboss this with that silver detailed powder. So I'm just applying the anti-static powder and inking up the stamp again with my Sizzix watermark ink or embossing ink, same thing. And I'm going to do it twice just to get a really, really good impression. And I am also going to try that blue paper, because I wasn't quite getting a feel of the color for the sentiment, and I felt the blue was too blue. So I'm going to try white as well. I'll do both, and then I'll see which one looks best on the card. So I'm just repeating the process here. Now I'm going to apply that silver embossing powder, the Gina K Detail embossing powder, to both the black as well as the white. And I had cleverly positioned the white one beneath, on the board, so that I could collect the powder on it, and then, that way I didn't have to pour it out twice. Talk about being lazy, but you know what? It's efficient, right? So I'm just using a regular eraser to wipe away or erase some of that anti-static powder, because it was really showing up on the black. I used a Swiffer before that, but not everything was removed. And now I am just checking to make sure where to place the florals. And yeah, the part that I already had the two sentiments heat embossed, of course, and I am just letting them cool down a little bit while I glue down the floral arrangement. So just the parts that would or might get lifted because it's not really attached together by any adhesive. So I glued those parts down, and now I'm applying the dimensional foam because I do want a little bit of dimension. And the smaller areas, the narrow areas, I actually cut down the foam square and applied the halves, if you know what I mean. So I just cut them down into half and applied them because those were really narrow strips and that large foam square would not fit. And I'm completing the this part by just removing all the backing paper from the foam squares, and I'm going to hold the press and seal over the card base and just press it down, and everything will be right there. And I'm going to carefully peel back that press and seal, and there you go. That's the final floral arrangement. Looks so pretty. You have a couple of leaves kind of overhanging the card base, and I'm going to just snip those off with my scissors. And that has a little bit of foam tape behind it, so I'm going to just stick it under one of the petals. I like to conserve my supplies as much as I can, and I hate wasting anything, so that goes right back in, and it looks pretty good. So it serves the purpose of you know, making the arrangement look a little bit fuller. And yeah, so all the overhang is now gone from all the sides, and everything is nicely down in place. Now I'm going to look at the sentiment and see which one looks better. I got out my ergonomic snips because I do have arthritis, and this helps me a little bit, especially with fussy cutting, although I hate fussy cutting. But in the last steps, I always bring out my fine fussy cutting scissors, and because they help me refine the edges a little bit more, but I do the main work with the ergonomic ones. And same thing with the white one. I'm just going to fussy cut around the sentiment, the white sentiment, and once I have both of them, I'm going to just try to place them on the card and see which one works best. And I honestly wasn't getting the feel for, you know, the sentiment for this card, and I had to try multiple things. So I tried the black, you know, in different positions, the white, nothing was kind of looking the way I wanted it to look. But finally I actually decided that I would use the white sentiment and on the washi tape panel, because the black was a little bit too in the face, and the white seemed like it was a little bit more subtle, if you know what I mean. So I put it on foam squares again to give it that dimension to match the floral arrangement. And I'm just going to put it right there, just above the floral arrangement on the washi panel. And just the embellishments, wanted to add a little something to them, and I found the perfect enamel dots. And because these have a sticky back, I couldn't kind of place them on the card as I would with sequins and play around with the arrangement. I just got out my pokey tool and I finally found something an arrangement that I liked. So I'm using a mix of sizes, and my card is done. I love the silver details, especially on the leaves, that some of them have the detail and some of them have the outline. And this is it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're inspired to create a card of your own. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you give this video a like, and I also hope you subscribe to my channel. I'd love your support to help grow this channel, and I hope to see you next time.